Okay, folks, I know it's been a while on the video, so I figured I would start putting them out. I just need to start getting more disciplined and putting them out 3 to 5 times a week. So that's something I'll work on for the end of this year and then going into 2020. Today is October 15th, 2019. You're looking at the end of the closing for October 15th. The Dow was up about 0.9%. S&P 500 is up 1%. Nasdaq and small caps are up 1.24%. So most of October we have been rising. We're actually very close to all-time highs for the S&P 500. Small caps is what I'm really interested in. It's a nice little percentage off of its all-time high from last year. So I mostly focus on small caps for this year. Let's look at some charts. Okay, we're going to start with the small caps, IWM. You see IWM was up 1.14% today. So the green line represents the 20-day moving average. Red line is the 50-day moving average. The black line is the 200-day moving average. So you see we headed up, touched the 200-day moving average, and then bounced off of that. So what I'm hoping for the rest of the week is that it jumps above that 200-day moving average. If it's above all the moving averages, there's a very good chance it'll end the next couple of weeks up 3 to 4%. That's what I'm counting on. You see, most of October, we have been rising, even though we took a beating towards the end of last month, but most of October we have been rising. And we are expecting the S&P 500 and possibly the Nasdaq to hit new all-time highs. Let's look at S&P 500 next. SPY. SPY, you see we're way above the 200-day moving average, the black line. You see we're also above the 50-day moving average, which is the red line, and we're above the 20-day moving average, which is the green line. For the last 2 or 3 days, we have been above the 20-day moving average. This is very positive. We should hit new all-time highs in the next week or so for the SPY. I will be very surprised if we don't hit it this week. So hopefully it hits new all-time highs this week, next week, the week after. That'll give the small caps time to rise and for us to make money in the small caps. I really don't want to take a chance going long in the S&P 500, the Dow, or the Nasdaq, since those are close to their all-time highs. But I will take a nice chance on the small caps, because if the small caps aren't rising, then the market probably isn't going to stay up too much longer than that. Let's look at NASDAQ. QQQ. Okay. NASDAQ or QQQ, it looks similar to the S&P 500, SPY. It's above its 200-day moving average. The 50-day moving average is above the 200-day moving average. The 20-day moving average is above the 50-day moving average. And we finished today, and actually the last 3 days, above the 20-day moving average, which is positive. The market should be going up to make new all-time highs in the next week or so. Hopefully it makes multiple all-time highs in the next couple of weeks. so that it will pull up the small caps. That's what we're banking on from everything we've seen for this year. The markets should be going up for the rest of the year. One big reason why is because the Fed has been dumping a lot of money into the banks. And we think that the banks that are getting the money are using the money to buy up everything for the stock market and bond market. Between the Fed and the banks, the big banks, which is one and the same, they're using the money, their bailout money, to buy up the stock markets, buy up the bond markets, to push the stock markets higher in anticipation for the 2020 election so that Trump can get reelected. That's my opinion. So I had a lot of help figuring that out. So if you hear it anywhere else, there's a very good chance that that's where I heard it from as well. Let's look at the Dow Jones, DJI. You see the Dow Jones looks very similar to the S&P 500. It also looks very similar to the NASDAQ. So it looks similar to SPY, QQQ. The 20-day moving average is above the 50-day moving average. 50-day moving average is above the 200-day moving average. And for the last 3 days, we have closed above the 20-day moving average. This is stock market positive. The stock markets for the Dow Jones, S&P 500, NASDAQ, in the next weeks, they should make new all-time highs. All three of them. I'm anticipating that they're going to make multiple new all-time highs between now and the end of the year. But we're going to focus on the small caps. The small caps have more room to go up as everything else is going up. So that's one thing to keep our eye on. Let's see how we're doing compared to like S&P 500 benchmark. Or look at our year-to-date return. Okay, so the highest we've gotten this year has been about 15%, which is a little bit behind our like 2060 target date. But this year is kind of special. I wanted to be very conservative this year because there's a lot of geopolitical things that are going on. Between Brexit, they got till the 31st of October for a deal. If not, they'll get an extension or they'll leave the EU on a hard Brexit, which will temporarily bring markets down. I don't want to be losing my portfolio on those silly stuff because they can't figure out what they want to do. You also have the China-US trade wars. Sometimes they have a truce. Sometimes things are good. Some things aren't good. I don't want to be losing 25 to 50% of my portfolio because they're over here playing these games. So I'd rather be very, very conservative. Like I said, the highest we've been this year is 15%. I think the highest 2060 target date has been about 18%. So we're a little bit behind. I don't worry about that. What I do pay attention to is our 1-year average, 3-year average, 5-year average. You see our 1-year average is still 14.5%. 3-year average is a 13.3. 5-year average is 11. We're going to compare that to 2060 target date, S&P 500, and Harbor Capital, which is a large cap fund. Well, let's compare it to 2055 target date. So you got State Street Global Advisors, target retirement 2055. You see its year-to-date return is a 16.83. So it appears that they're dusting us off for this year. However, if you look at the last year, they're only up 2.52%, where we're up 14.5%. Look at the 3-year average return is a 9%, and a 5-year average return is a 6.97%. So we're long term, we're doing almost twice as good as them. So I don't worry about 1 year. I don't even worry about 2 years. I worry more about long term, and I worry about being conservative and making sure that we grow. Even if we don't beat everybody out each year, I still like to do better on average long term than the average person. So that's how our portfolio is set up. That's why we do all these moves, so that long term we'll do better than the average person. Let's look at S&P 500. S&P 500 is the global benchmark. You see, for this year, S&P 500 is a 21.4% return. However, that's year to date. But for the last year, it's only up 4.24% versus our 14%. You see the 3-year average for S&P 500 is a 13.38. And then you see the 5-year return is a 10.82. So long term, we are still beating out the S&P 500, which is the global benchmark. It's hard to beat the S&P 500 long term, but in the next 3 years, we plan on beating it out at least twice. In the next 5 years, we plan on beating it out at least 3 times. In the next 7 years, we plan on beating it out at least 5 times with our style. So we don't worry about 1 or 2 years. Longer term, I think we can beat out the S&P 500 by moving our things around and being conservative. That's what's more important at this point. Being conservative, because too many tricky things happen in this market. We're at a 10-year bull run so far. I think it's the longest bull run in modern history for United States stock markets. So we want to be pretty conservative. We don't want to go all in and be very, very bullish, getting close to the end of a bull cycle. So that's our style. Let's look at Harbor Capital. That's what we chase down every year. Harbor Capital. Harbor Capital. This is what I like to see, folks. You see, for the year, for 2019, Harbor Capital is up 21.78%. However, for the last 12 months, Harbor Capital is only up, or it's actually down 0.78%. We're up 14.5%. Harbor Capital is down 0.75%. So Harbor Capital 3-year return is a 16.32. They're beating us there. And then the 5-year return is a 12.72. They're also beating us there. But we're hoping in the next 3 years to beat Harbor Capital 2 out of the next 3 years, 3 out of the next 5 years, 5 out of the next 7 years. I think we can do it. That is our goal. That's our strategy, is to try to beat Harbor Capital. But we try to do it in a conservative manner. You see, we're not too far behind it by using our conservative approach. Because what we do is we try to maximize gains and reduce losses. So that's our video. Mostly what I'm using these videos for are just my own personal vlog. So to help me remember why I made certain decisions If you look at the charts from earlier, you'll see that the markets have been up for the last 3 days. I'm thinking that the markets are going to continue up to all-time highs, but I don't want to take a risk in small caps if the market is going to do some trickery and start heading down. I don't want to lose 5 and 10 and 15% of my portfolio. So right now, we're situated with 75% Putnam stable value, 25% the SS Russell, which is a State Street Russell or small cap fund. So if it goes up, we'll get 25% of the gains. If it goes down, we'll lose 25% of whatever the SS Russell loses instead of the whole percentage. Because sometimes it'll go up 2 or 3% in one day or down 2 or 3% in one day. I don't want to lose a good portion of my portfolio because I was wrong. Remember, our style is very conservative, and we're going to keep it that way until the stock market crashes. The stock market crashes whenever that is. If it's 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, after it crashes 40, 50, 60%, then we'll go very aggressive on small caps, mid caps, large caps, and try to make a lot of the gains up over that next 10-year period. Thank you for watching. Enjoy.